Hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday, folks. Good evening to you. Meteorologist Todd Howell here with an evening update and live stream. Once again, we're looking ahead to another impactful weekend system heading in. Now, especially for bitterly cold temperatures, last weekend was the coldest air we've seen so far this winter season. It looks to be surpassed by this weekend's bitterly cold air. So number one, more very cold Arctic air set to move back in. Number two, we do have a chance for light snowfall on the front end of this Arctic blast moving in Friday evening, Friday night into Saturday morning. It looks to generally be a light snowfall event, except it could be heavier toward the mountains and especially for areas well to our east into the Carolinas. So that's part of the setup. Thank you for joining us. As usual, we'll walk through all the details. Let me go ahead and tell you up front, though, the good news, no ice this weekend. That's the one big difference. Again, we're going to talk about, temperature comparisons, but that's the only comparison between last weekend and this weekend in terms of similarities. Yeah, it's going to be just as cold, if not colder, but thankfully only one precip type, and that would be in the form of generally light snowfall. All right, so we'll walk through those details. So it will continue to be chilly now the next couple of days for our Thursday and Friday with highs in the 30s. But then we're talking about more bitterly cold Arctic air as we get into this upcoming weekend. So headline number two, yep, it's another very cold Arctic blast that's moving in. I mean, this jet stream has been locked in for much of the eastern half of the country, and that's bringing in more bitterly cold Arctic air. So prepare now for that. That's going to start moving in Friday night, and it's going to be with us even into early next week. So then we're also talking about light snow developing again later Friday evening, maybe as early as Friday afternoon, but Friday evening through Saturday morning. We'll have a chance for light snowfall across the region, especially across the eastern half of our region. I'm going to get more into the nuts and bolts of this system, and we'll dive into that momentarily. But generally from Interstate 75 east, so the eastern half of East Tennessee, that's where the best chance for generally accumulating snowfall, and snowfall in general will be. It doesn't mean it won't snow west of 75, but it looks to be somewhat lighter across the western half of East Tennessee. So that's what it's shaping up right now. Again, all those details coming up. Heavier snow is likely in the mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina, and impactful. And if you're going up into the Tri-Cities, far upper East Tennessee, up into Virginia, also decent snows expected as further east you go, or northeast, more snowfall with this system. We're going to be kind of on the back side, the western fringe of it. So here's what we're looking at to recap our weather headlines. Chilly and dry for your Thursday, 38 tomorrow. We'll take it full. And there's a look at mainly dry weather. Now Friday, 37. Notice we've got that 40% chance for those light snow showers by late afternoon and more likely into our Friday evening. So that's what we're looking at as far as that chance for light snow. Snow showers are likely Friday night and into most of our Saturday morning. And look at the temperatures on Saturday. Again, we go from 37 on Friday, but not for long, dropping into the upper teens, and we only rise maybe a few degrees into the lower 20s. Some areas could stay in the upper teens to near 20 degrees. So that's the type of very cold, bitterly cold air moving in. That chance for snow showers generally most likely Saturday morning and then moving out Saturday afternoon and evening. May see a little wraparound flurries again late Saturday night and Sunday, but that's the timing. And again, we'll have that Futurecast for you as well coming up on that. We'll show you potential mounts as far as our first look at what we think will transpire. I've got that snowfall forecast for you coming up in just a second. So here's our weather impact alert. Again, recapping from Friday afternoon through Monday morning. Now, for this time frame, this is primarily for the bitterly cold temperatures. We could be looking at up to 72 hours, 3 days of below freezing temperatures. Now, this past winter weather event, for comparison, as far as temperatures, we were 42 hours below freezing in Knoxville. And so just shy of 48 hours, we're just shy of 2 days in a row consecutive. This one, well, we're going below freezing Friday evening, and our forecast high on Monday is 33. So if we don't get there, that's going to be, let's see, it would take us all the way through Monday night. We'd have to wait on Tuesday to get above. That's over 3 days. So whenever you have multiple sub-freezing days, below freezing temperatures during the day, and very cold nights, we'll likely be seeing single digits and some near 10-degree lows with below zero wind chills. That sustained multi-day cold, that's when you have issues with pipes potentially bursting. So I'd definitely be needing to drip the faucets, especially this weekend. So that's one of the big differences. We're going to add in even more cold for a longer duration, and so we'll need to get prepared. We'll need to drive carefully now, use caution on the roads, especially while we're having some light snowfall for Friday night and Saturday. Anything that falls will stick. That's the other big difference this time around, if you will. You know, a lot of times, typically, when it's marginally cold enough, the ground maybe not all the way cold enough, it's snow for a bit, it ends up sticking later as it gets heavier. This time around, even if it's just light snowfall, anything that falls could lay. And so it only takes a little bit, right? You've heard us say this a lot, and it only takes a small amount to cause some potentially slick and slippery roads. So that will be true in this scenario as well, because anything that falls will have the potential of sticking. I will say this, though, this one looks to be a very dry, fluffy type snow. Now, along that line, the big difference from last weekend, the serious, significant ice storm and ice in even our area, you know, some snow, but that was a different animal, right? That was a very serious, significant winter storm. Okay, this is going to be serious in terms of the bitterly cold air, but as far as the light snowfall, as long as you can bundle up, this is more of your fluffy, dry snow, no ice. And so if you mind getting out in it, if we get a few inches or so around our region in general, maybe you can get out and sled in it or play in it and just bundle up. It's more of the having fun, enjoying perhaps the snow a little bit instead of having to, deal with power outages and all that. So that's the big difference from last weekend to this weekend. So that's some good news. But again, very cold for several days in a row. So you'll definitely want to stay warm and bundle up. All right, let's talk about this and recap, and I'll take it back full here. Last weekend, in order, and again, I won't spend too much time because you already know, we went from snow and sleet to freezing rain. That's the icing. This is what caused the bad icing and ice storm in Nashville. Yeah, they did have some snow and sleet. They had about 2.5 inches beforehand, but it was the freezing rain, the ice that formed from freezing rain and freezing on contact. That's what created that heavy icing. There was over an inch and a half of icing. That's very significant. Once you get above half-inch icing, it's pretty significant. So they were doubled, almost triple that basically. And then, of course, we even had rain. We had some heavy rain, had flood advisories. This time around, no. From cloud to ground, the column of air is going to be sufficiently cold enough. So even though a predominantly light snowfall event is expected, it would be just snow. All right, so here's an early look at potential amounts. And again, notice we do have a gradient from west to east. So starting west on the plateau, there could be an inch or two, there could be 1 to 2 inches, but this area is expected to experience the lightest snowfall in general, because remember I said we were on the western fringe, western edge of this storm? That really hasn't changed too much from yesterday and the last couple of days. Still the same story. We're getting the storm starting to form, and we are getting some upper level energy with its own moisture, and so that's where we're getting our initial light snowfall from. The main storm is not even going to have fully developed until later Saturday afternoon and evening out in the Atlantic, and it's going to be a significant coastal low that's going to bomb out. We're talking about hurricane force winds along eastern North Carolina and coastal Virginia with blizzard conditions there across eastern Carolinas up into Virginia. It's going to be a significant storm for those folks. But again, the storms just begin to form as it's tracking through our area beforehand, before it gets significant well to our east. So that's why we're just getting a light snowfall from this event. So let's work our way from west to east, but I had to preface that because that plays a key role there. So 1 to 2 inches possible on the plateau into the western valley, anywhere from 1 to 3 inches possible for parts of northern Tennessee, the central valley, and to the south. And so notice, and again, you have that gradient. Let me take this full because I think you can see it better too, and I'll highlight it. Yeah, sorry about that. I think it's fuller and you can see it better. So let me talk about it and illustrate. So notice, see this darker blue? And that's where you get a little bit more steady snowfall and better chances for a little bit more accumulated snowfall, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches from Pigeon Forge, Dandridge, Morristown, near Tazewell, at Sneeville, on up into southwest Virginia. So that's a little bit more snowfall once you get generally east of Knoxville, and basically, if you will, the eastern half of East Tennessee. There could be 2 to 4 inches plus, especially. Now look what happens when you get closer to the mountains and foothills. This is opposite of last week's system as well. Closer to the mountains and foothills, we got 3 to 5 inches plus. That's a starting point. There's some models show totals higher up in the mountains. I mean, it could be 6 to 10. So the plus is going to apply here in the mountains. So again, no shocker, no surprise there, right? That's usually where it's going to be the heaviest. So the further east you go, the better chance for snow. And I mentioned a moment ago, generally speaking, this is Interstate 75, kind of snaking its way down through here. East of 75, that's where the better chances for snowfall in general with this system will be. But that's what it looks like right now. Again, an inch or two, maybe 1 to 3 in parts of our region, back to the plateau, but the 2 to 4 to heavier amounts for the eastern half of East Tennessee. And generally, again, a dry, light, fluffy snowfall, but enough to still cause slippery road conditions. So the impacts could still be there. By the way, and this is just a side note, and this may sound opposite of what you'd think. Actually, if the more snow you get, it's actually easier to drive on. Now, you don't want to be out in harm's way. I don't mean that. But you actually get some traction with a little bit more snow. Here's the point I'm making. If you only get a little bit of snow, let's just say it's an inch or less, for example, just to use that example. If you only get an inch or less, there's not much space between that thin layer of snow and your tires and the pavement, right? As you know, it can easily, you're closer to that pavement and only a thin layer of snow. That's actually can be more treacherous, this is the point I was making, than a deeper snow, for example. The more snow you get, you actually, because your tires are not hitting the pavement, right? They're hitting the snow. And especially if it's wetter snow, you make snowball. That's just I'm just throwing that out as a general point. So when we talk about a light snowfall, in some cases, even though the good news, it won't be wet, not overly icy. That's the good news. Not expecting that with this system. But even if we just get an inch or two or a few inches, that could still make the road slick. That's just the point I want to make there, and use caution, especially later Friday night into Saturday morning. Later Saturday afternoon and evening, that's when the system will start to move out. So let's get right to our Futurecast. Here's what we're looking at. And again, I'm going to stop it. This is Friday afternoon, and this is kind of the point. Notice there's some light rain in Birmingham. Let me take it full so you can see that better. There's some light rain showing up in Birmingham. This storm's just getting developed. The main upper trough is digging back in here. It's still back to our west at this point. We're starting to get some lift and some wind energy, and what we call upper level divergence that's developing. All that means is the air aloft is starting to spread out, and when you have air spreading out aloft, it promotes rising air from below. So that's when you have upper level energy, which is really going to be driving this light snowfall for event for us. So that's why even later Friday afternoon, we have a chance for light snow and flurries developing. Now, as we go, let me kind of just walk through this just a little bit. I've got some other pause points I'll put in. So notice it's just in the formative stages. Again, it's going to mature and really develop off the coastal areas. That's where the May winter storm track will be, well to our east. Coastal North Carolina, the Carolinas up into Virginia. Yep, the beaches are going to get heavy snow, and there could be blizzard conditions here. So that's later Saturday and Saturday night after it's already moved out of our area. So it's just starting to form, and this is what we're seeing in East Tennessee. I know it doesn't look like a lot right there. Once we get later Friday night, that's when we start to see a little bit more of that development. Notice how we're kind of on the back edge, and this is just this isn't one of our high-res models actually, so we're in that time frame. But we're looking at a lot of different model data. They're all kind of showing about the same thing. They're in pretty good agreement actually. As usual, there's one that's heavier, probably an anomaly, but the other ones generally give us a light snowfall event. So it's still developing here, and I'll continue to go out. Just wanted to show that, kind of the plateau's the back edge. I mean, one of our models does bring Nashville some light snow. It's a lot further west. It's a little bit more of an outlier. So you see, let me kind of play that back and forth from around, what was that, midnight Friday? No, that's early Saturday morning, actually. From early Saturday morning, I'm just going to kind of rock that back and forth. You see that? Let me take it full so you can see it better. You see, if we go early Saturday morning, just look at Knoxville. See how we're kind of on the back edge, the western fringe? And then notice what happens by later Saturday afternoon. This is as far out as this model goes, right about there. Later Saturday afternoon, it's starting to pull to the east, still snowing in the mountains, but that back edge is going to be pulling away and then working its way east. Then we're talking about this storm really starting to crank again. Now, boy, this is a big deal for coastal areas. Models are showing this low pressure, what we call bombing out, and it's kind of like it's similar to a tropical system that starts to undergo deep and rapid intensification and strengthening. The pressure, as the pressure lowers and drops, the wind speeds go up. It's an inverse relationship. So we're talking about this low pressure bombing out in the Atlantic and a deep low pressure strong storm and moving north-northeast. bringing very impactful snow and wind. That's right, blizzard conditions to coastal, maybe South Carolina, especially from Wilmington, the Outer Banks, just going to get rocked with a lot of wind and snow. And again, look at that fine line there. But this is just, this is only through early Saturday afternoon. This is as far as this model goes out. It's still cranking up. So this is as far as this particular model goes out. So we're going to see this storm continue to strengthen. And obviously tomorrow and again Friday, check back in because we'll be tracking this storm for our neighbors to our east. But that's going to have high impacts. I mean, they're talking about, yeah, maybe going from inches to some feet across eastern portions of North Carolina up into Virginia. And again, with maybe some hurricane force wind gusts, and I mentioned blizzard conditions. So that's the expected track of this particular system for generally a light snowfall for Friday, late afternoon through the first half of Saturday morning, and then we'll start to see that system pulling away. So that's the snowfall part of this system. Let's talk about those temperatures. I mentioned the bitterly cold Arctic air. Once again, we're talking about high temperatures staying below freezing for multiple days. And look at this impact. Unfortunately, this is going to be bitterly cold air that's going all the way down into the deep south, even into northern Florida. Again, so it's a very cold shot of air. It's going to be far-reaching and very impactful. And so this is Saturday at 2 p.m. Just picked a point to show you the bright pinks, which is very cold air. We're going with a high of 22 on Saturday, maybe. Temperatures, they may not hardly even budge. We may almost be in a steady 18, 19, 20, and then falling back off Saturday afternoon. And then Saturday night, Sunday morning, we're likely going to be seeing a lot of single digits with below zero wind chills. That's expected with the very cold air. Now, we'll say this. If you put snow on the ground, even if it's just a small or light amount of a couple inches or so, if you get snow on the ground, that doesn't retain any heat. It reflects the heat back up, has a higher albedo, what we like to say, but it reflects that heat back up. You can get a whole lot colder when you have snow on the ground. That's why Nashville's been struggling to get above freezing, because they still got a lot of snow and ice on the ground, even though the sun's been out the last few days. They got to 33 today. They're struggling to get up because they have snow and ice. So if we have snow, yes, that could have our temperatures be a little bit colder. So I'm going to show you the numbers in just a moment, but those numbers right now are not taking into account that potential snow on the ground. We'll adjust, obviously, going forward, and just, as we get closer, we'll do that. So how long is the very cold air going to stick around? At least through Monday, and then we're going to see temperatures by Tuesday into Wednesday. We're forecasting highs back in the 40s. So with that, let me get right to it and show you our 7-day forecast, and we'll pull that up again. That we'll have those weather impact alerts starting Friday afternoon through Monday morning for the bitterly cold air and that chance for light snowfall, again, Friday afternoon, but especially Friday night, first half of Saturday morning. Accumulations kind of expected, even though on the light side, so it could have some hazardous roads. Again, we're going to keep you updated. We still got 2 days or so before that gets here. And then very cold. There's the 22 on Saturday. We got 10 Saturday night, Sunday morning. But with any snow on the ground and even that cold air, that may be below that. We got 28 Sunday, so staying in the 20s and very cold, below freezing through the weekend. We got a 9 on the board for Sunday night. Same story. Depending on wind and cloud cover, and still some lingering snow cover on the ground potentially, that could be colder than that. Monday is Groundhog Day. Well, the groundhog sees a shadow. It really doesn't matter. There's a look at, I'm just having fun. If y'all know me very well, we love to have fun with the groundhog. It's low-hanging fruit. It's just easy to have fun with that. And, the key there, they got to wait till after sunrise. Like, yank that thing out of the hole before the sun comes up and all the camera lights. Of course it's going to see a shadow. There's entertainment. Anyway, I'll leave it there. That's why we have fun with it. Shocker, right? All right, so there's a look at our Tuesday forecast. Highs in the mid-40s. We slowly see those temps warming back up from the upper teens into the upper 20s, but still cold. There's another midweek system, maybe a little mix that could come in later on, but at least we thaw out some by the middle part of the week. But again, we could be at or below freezing for maybe 72 hours, 3 days worth, and that could be some pipe busting type cold. We'll have to drip the water and have those faucets dripping as we go throughout the weekend into early next week. Hey, thank you for joining us. No weather worries tonight or tomorrow. Again, 19 in the morning, 38 for your Thursday. Have a good night. Have a good day tomorrow. And we'll see you back. Beck will be back in the morning for update. Cassie, Mike, Julia, we'll all keep you updated the best we can. And I'll see you back tomorrow evening for another live stream. Have a great night.